Oregon, a land where ancient forests whisper secrets older than memory, where restless rivers carve paths through shadowed valleys, and where fog drapes itself over the earth like a shroud. It's a place of staggering beauty, but also of lingering ghosts. From abandoned asylums to lonely lighthouses, from mist-shrouded battlefields to eerie theaters where the audience never truly leaves, Oregon hides more than just history. Here, the past doesn't fade, it lingers, it watches, and sometimes, it follows. Tonight, we journey deep into the Beaver State's haunted heart. So dim the lights, listen closely, and keep an eye on the corners of your vision, because these are the 20 most haunted places in Oregon, and their stories may just follow you long after this video ends. Beneath the vibrant streets and trendy shops of Portland's Old Town lies a hidden world steeped in shadows, fear, and mystery. The Shanghai Tunnels, a sprawling, labyrinthine network of underground passages, are more than just a relic of the city's past. They are a chilling reminder of a time when the streets above could betray you with the simple sound of a trapdoor creaking open. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Portland was a thriving port city, a hub for trade, commerce, and the constant flow of sailors, merchants, and fortune seekers. The docks buzzed with life, but in the dark corners of the city's saloons and opium dens, another, more sinister business thrived. Men, usually sailors or drifters, would disappear without a trace, their absence chalked up to bad luck or drunken misadventure. But those who knew the truth whispered a single, dreaded word: Shanghai. The unsuspecting victims were often lured into taverns and offered a drink laced with drugs or liquor strong enough to knock them senseless. When they awoke, they found themselves locked away in the tunnels, stripped of freedom, and awaiting transport to a ship that would carry them far from home. The tunnels themselves became the perfect accomplice to the crime. Beneath the streets, narrow corridors stretched like veins through the underbelly of the city, connecting saloons, brothels, and storage basements to the waterfront. Trapdoors, hidden under rugs or behind bar counters, allowed kidnappers to drop their victims directly into these shadowed passageways. Down there, in the airless dark, the captives waited, sometimes for days, until their transport arrived. Some were shackled to prevent escape, while others were kept in tiny cells or holding pens. Many never came back. Harsh sea voyages, brutal conditions, and the sheer distance from land meant that countless men simply vanished from the record. Their families left with no answers. The tunnels were not just a holding area. They were a place where lives ended and fear flourished. Today, long after Shanghai faded into history, the tunnels still breathe with an unsettling energy. Tour guides who lead visitors into the dimly lit corridors speak of the air growing suddenly cold, as if the temperature drops without warning. Guests sometimes freeze in place, certain they've heard footsteps pacing just ahead, though their flashlights reveal nothing but the uneven brick walls and rotting wooden beams. Paranormal investigators who have ventured deep underground report strange equipment malfunctions. Cameras refuse to work, batteries drain in minutes, and audio recorders pick up faint, unintelligible whispers. Some have captured the metallic scrape of what sounds like chains dragging slowly across the floor, always from somewhere just out of sight. A brush of cold air against the cheek. The sharp, panicked gasp of a visitor who clutches at their throat, describing the feeling of invisible hands closing around it. These episodes, fleeting but intense, leave shaken witnesses with the unshakable belief that something down here wants to be remembered. Some believe the spirits of the kidnapped still wander the tunnels, lost in the same darkness where they last drew breath. Others suspect that the violent nature of their fate has bound a far more malevolent presence to the place. Tour guides tell of shadows that dart across the walls when no one is moving, and of visitors who swear they've seen a man standing in the distance, only for him to dissolve into the black. Adding to the unease is the constant sense of disorientation. The tunnels twist and turn, each passage blending into the next, until it's hard to tell where you've been and where you're going. Without a guide, it would be easy to get lost, and some claim that's exactly what the spirits want. for the living to feel the same confusion and fear the victims once did. Occasionally, old artifacts are uncovered in the dust. Broken bottles, rusted shackles, scraps of clothing. They are grim reminders that these ghost stories aren't just fantasy. Real people suffered here. Some historians argue that the extent of Shanghai and Portland has been exaggerated over the years. But even they admit that enough evidence exists to prove that the practice was real and that the tunnels played a key role. Above ground, the city bustles with life. Music spills from bars. Pedestrians crowd the sidewalks, and cars rumble over the very spots where trapdoors once waited for the next unlucky victim. But below, in the still, damp dark, it feels as though time has stopped. Down there, the only sounds are the drip of water from the ceiling, the shuffle of feet on old stone, and if you're unlucky, the faint echo of someone walking just behind you. The Shanghai Tunnels may be a tourist attraction now, but their history is carved deep into Portland's soul. They are more than passageways. They are a hidden graveyard of stolen freedom. A place where human cruelty turned the city's foundations into a hunting ground. In the rolling hills of eastern Oregon, where the mountains rise against wide-open skies, there stands an imposing structure that seems almost out of place in the quiet countryside. The Hot Lake Hotel, with its sprawling brick facade and weathered charm, was once a beacon of elegance and health. In the early 20th century, it was considered a crown jewel of the Pacific Northwest, a resort that drew visitors from across the nation, lured by the promise of healing mineral waters and panoramic views of the Grande Ronde Valley. When it first opened, the hotel was the very definition of luxury. Guests arrived by train, stepping out onto the platform to be greeted by crisp mountain air and the faint scent of sulfur from the hot springs nearby. Inside, grand halls and fine dining awaited, alongside baths fed directly by the mineral-rich waters that bubbled up from the earth. People came seeking cures for ailments, hoping the spring's reputed powers could ease arthritis, respiratory problems, and other chronic illnesses. For a time, it seemed the Hot Lake Hotel would thrive forever. But history had other plans. In 1934, a catastrophic fire ripped through the building, consuming much of its structure and claiming lives in the chaos. The survivors watched as the flames devoured their sanctuary, leaving behind a scorched shell where luxury had once reigned. Rebuilding efforts were swift, but the hotel's fate had already shifted. Its days as a glamorous resort were over. In the years that followed, the Hot Lake Hotel took on a darker role. It was converted into a sanatorium and later a nursing home, where patients with severe illness or injury came to live out their final days. Death became a constant presence within its walls. The bright laughter and clinking glasses of the old resort days gave way to hushed footsteps, medical carts rattling across the floors, and the quiet sighs of those too weak to move. Staff spoke of the building's eerie stillness at night, as if it were holding its breath. As decades passed, the property fell into disrepair, its once proud architecture weathered by time and neglect. But even as the walls crumbled, the building refused to be silent. Those who dared to enter spoke of a strange sensation that settled over them, a blend of peace from the surrounding landscape and an undercurrent of unease. As though the past was still watching, visitors and staff have reported an array of unsettling encounters over the years. The upper floors, in particular, seem to hum with activity that defies explanation. Faint strains of piano music drift through the corridors late at night, though no piano remains in the building. The notes are soft and deliberate, echoing as if played in an empty ballroom, each one fading into silence. Those who hear it often describe an inexplicable sadness that settles over them, as though the music is being played for someone who never came back. Windows in the upper stories sometimes reveal figures dressed in early 20th century clothing, gazing out at the valley. From a distance, they appear solid and real, until someone approaches, only to find the room empty. These spectral watchers are often described in great detail. A woman in a long, dark gown, her hair pinned neatly. A man in a tailored suit and bowler hat, his expression unreadable. The man in the bowler hat is one of the most frequently reported apparitions. He is often seen standing on the main staircase, his hands resting lightly on the railing, as though he is waiting for someone to arrive. Witnesses say he never speaks, never moves, and his gaze seems to pierce straight through them. The moment they look away, even for an instant, he vanishes, leaving only the echo of their own footsteps in the empty hall. Some believe these figures are the spirits of former guests, unwilling to leave the place they loved in life. Others think they may be tied to the fire or the sanatorium years, their souls trapped by tragedy or the trauma of a final illness. Paranormal investigators who have explored the Hot Lake Hotel have reported sudden drops in temperature, unexplained shadows darting across hallways, and the sensation of being watched from unseen corners. Audio recordings captured in the empty dining hall have revealed faint voices, some whispering in what sounds like greetings, others murmuring words too faint to understand. Even those who don't believe in ghosts often find themselves unsettled after visiting. The building has a way of amplifying its own silence. Long hallways stretching into darkness, doorways that seem to lead into shadow rather than rooms, and staircases that creak under invisible weight. Outside, the hot springs still steam in the cold morning air, a reminder of the hotel's original promise of healing. But for many, the water now feels less like a cure and more like a tether, holding the spirits to this place. In recent years, restoration efforts have breathed new life into the Hot Lake Hotel, but its haunted reputation endures. Those who stay overnight often leave with stories they can explain, glimpses of faces in mirrors, the brush of a hand on their shoulder, or the unmistakable sound of footsteps pacing above them when no one else is upstairs. The Hot Lake Hotel remains a paradox, a place of beauty and history, where the promise of healing exists side by side with the lingering shadow of loss. Its walls have absorbed more than a century of human stories, from joy and celebration to fire and final farewells. And if the tales are true, some of those stories are still being told, not by the living, but by those who never truly checked out. In the small town of Gold Hill, tucked among Oregon's rolling hills and evergreen forests, lies a place where reality itself seems to falter. Known as the Oregon Vortex, it is both a tourist curiosity and a long-standing mystery. To the casual traveler, it's a quirky roadside stop where brooms stand upright on their own, balls roll uphill, and people appear to change height depending on where they stand. But beneath the odd angles and optical tricks, there is something deeper, something far older and more unsettling, that has kept people talking about this place for generations. Long before the first road was built or the first tourists set foot on the site, the land was known to the local Native American tribes. They avoided it entirely, calling it forbidden ground. Legend spoke of a place where the natural order was wrong, where spirits moved freely between worlds, and where those who lingered too long risked being taken away. Hunters would pass near the area only out of necessity, and they spoke in hushed tones about strange lights flickering in the trees and shapes moving against the wind. When settlers arrived in the 1800s, they too noticed something was off. Horses would balk and refuse to enter the clearing. Compasses spun erratically, and people felt a strange heaviness, as though the air itself pressed down on them. Some dismissed it as superstition, while others whispered about magnetic anomalies or supernatural forces. By the early 20th century, the stories had taken root. The most famous structure on the property, now known as the House of Mystery, was originally a gold assay office built in the 1890s. In 1910, a landslide shifted the building into a severe tilt, making it look as though it had been twisted by some unseen hand. Rather than demolish it, later owners embraced its oddity, and it became the focal point of the vortex experience. Visitors marveled at how objects defied gravity inside, yet many left with more questions than they arrived with. For all its playful demonstrations, the Oregon Vortex has an undercurrent of unease that is harder to explain away. Tour guides often hear from guests who report feeling lightheaded or nauseous, as if the ground itself is subtly swaying. Some say the sensation passes once they leave the property. Others claim it lingers for hours afterward. Skeptics attribute it to the disorienting angles of the tilted building, but many visitors experience the same effects even outside its walls, in the open air of the clearing. Electronic devices often malfunction here. Cameras that work perfectly fine elsewhere will refuse to focus. Batteries drain in minutes, and photos sometimes develop with strange light streaks or hazy shapes that weren't visible to the naked eye. Compasses spin without direction, and GPS devices lose signal entirely. For some, these are signs of a strong electromagnetic anomaly. For others, they're proof that something unseen is exerting its influence over the land. Then there are the sounds. Soft but persistent. Guests walking the narrow forest trails report hearing footsteps pacing behind them, only to turn and find no one there. In the stillness of the trees, voices have been heard, whispering in a language no one recognizes. One tour guide recalled leading a group when a woman suddenly froze, her eyes wide. She said she'd seen a dark figure dart from tree to tree just beyond the trail, moving too quickly to be human. When they searched the area, there was nothing. No footprints, no disturbed branches, nothing at all. Such shadowy figures are not an uncommon report. Described as tall, lean shapes darker than the surrounding forest, they seem to flicker at the edges of vision, vanishing the moment they're looked at directly. Some visitors feel these figures are watching, circling, perhaps curious, or perhaps protective of the place they inhabit. Theories about the Oregon vortex abound. Some believe it is a magnetic anomaly caused by mineral deposits beneath the earth. Others suspect it's a geological gravity hill illusion combined with clever construction. Yet these explanations do little to account for the strange sensations people feel, or the apparitions reported over the years. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site describe it as one of the most active locations they've studied. EMF, electromagnetic field. Readings spike unpredictably. An EVP, electronic voice phenomena. Sessions capture faint, indistinct voices. Some laughing, some speaking in tones of warning. Not all the stories are frightening, however. A few visitors have spoken of feeling an odd sense of calm in the clearing, as though the air hums with a kind of living energy. One man, a self-described skeptic, claimed he experienced a vision while standing near the tilted house, an image of a bustling trading post, with miners, native people, and travelers all passing through. When he blinked, it was gone, and he was left standing alone in the present-day vortex. Even after decades as a roadside attraction, the Oregon vortex remains wrapped in mystery. The laughter of tourists mixes with the deeper, stranger silence that hangs over the property. And for every person who leaves convinced it's all an illusion, there's another who can't shake the feeling that they brushed against something beyond explanation. The land has a way of leaving its mark, not just in photographs or memories, but in an unshakable sense that you've stepped outside the rules of the ordinary world, if only for a moment. And for those who believe in the old legends, that's exactly what the Oregon vortex is. A place where the veil between worlds thins, where spirits walk freely, and where the laws of nature bend to forces far older than humanity. Whether you see it as a clever trick of perspective or a doorway to something unknown, one thing is certain: the Oregon vortex refuses to give up its secrets. Completed in 1914, it was the dream home of Henry Pittock, publisher of the Oregonian, and his wife, Georgiana. The mansion was a testament to the couple's wealth and influence, boasting 46 rooms, lavish architectural details, and cutting-edge amenities for its time. It was designed not only as a family home, but as a statement of Portland's progress and ambition in the early 20th century. Yet, despite its grandeur, the Pittocks' time in the house was tragically brief. Georgiana died in 1918, just 4 years after moving in, and Henry followed her only a year later. Without its original owners, the mansion's purpose and warmth began to fade. Over the decades, it passed through various hands and eventually fell into disrepair. By the 1950s, storms and neglect had left it damaged, with rumors circulating about tearing it down entirely. However, the city of Portland rallied to save the property, purchasing and restoring it in the 1960s. Today, the Pittock Mansion stands as a museum, preserving both the family's legacy and the city's history. But those who work and visit here know that it may preserve more than just artifacts. Something intangible seems to have lingered. One of the most persistent paranormal reports is the sudden, unexplained scent of roses. Georgiana Pittock was known for her love of gardening, and roses were her favorite flower. Staff members say that even in the dead of winter, when the gardens outside are bare, the sweet floral scent will drift through rooms that are otherwise still. Visitors have caught the fragrance as well, often in the upper rooms where Georgiana once spent time reading or entertaining guests. There is never a visible source. No vases, no floral arrangements, only the lingering perfume of a bygone presence. Windows in the mansion have also been known to open or close without human assistance. This is not the result of Portland's breezy weather. Staff insist many of the windows require significant effort to move due to their age and size. On more than one occasion, a guide has returned to a room they had just prepared for a tour to find the windows in a different position. The latch is secure, as if someone inside had adjusted them moments earlier. Photographs taken by visitors sometimes reveal anomalies, figures that were not noticed when the picture was taken. One of the most famous claims is that Henry and Georgiana themselves have been captured in these images. Henry standing tall in his signature suit, Georgiana appearing in elegant dresses, watching quietly as though still hosting their beloved home. The sound of footsteps is another common occurrence. Guides, security staff, and even contractors have heard them. Steady, measured steps in hallways that appear empty. Often, the sounds come from the upper floors after the museum has closed, prompting staff to search the rooms. They always return empty-handed, though some admit to feeling a faint breeze on the back of their necks while checking the silent corridors. The mansion also seems to elicit more personal encounters for certain visitors. A former staff member recalled locking up late one evening when she heard faint laughter coming from the music room. Thinking another staffer had lingered, she called out, but no one responded. The laughter stopped, replaced by a soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on polished wood. When she stepped inside, the room was dark and empty, the air unnaturally still. In another account, a young visitor on a school tour became pale and dizzy while standing near Georgiana's former bedroom. She told her teacher she felt like someone was staring right into her. After a brief break outside, she recovered, but refused to re-enter that part of the house. Staff later mentioned that this particular room is one where the rose scent most often appears. Some paranormal investigators have suggested that the activity at Pittock Mansion is less about restless spirits and more about residual energy. Moments from the past replaying themselves in the present. The building, with its marble floors, hardwood halls, and panoramic views, holds the echoes of countless events, both joyous and tragic. For others, the idea that Henry and Georgiana might still linger here is a comforting one, a sign that they never truly left the home they loved. Still, not all experiences are gentle. A few visitors have reported sudden chills in rooms that are otherwise warm. In the basement, where servants once worked and supplies were stored, shadows have been seen darting just out of view. One night, a motion alarm was triggered in the kitchen, but when security arrived, the room was empty, save for a single teacup lying on its side on the floor. The alarm logs showed no evidence of a door or window being opened. Despite its strange occurrences, the Pittock Mansion remains a beloved landmark. Its beauty and history draw thousands of guests each year, many of whom come away with a deeper appreciation, not only for Portland's past, but also for the thin veil between history and the present. For some, the lingering scents, sounds, and sightings are nothing more than quirks of an old house. For others, they are proof that the Pittocks still keep watch, their presence as much a part of the mansion as its towering walls and sweeping views. Whether these phenomena are products of imagination, environmental quirks, or genuine ghostly activity, the Pittock Mansion holds its mysteries close. Standing on its terrace at dusk, with the city lights beginning to twinkle below, it's easy to believe that the past is never truly gone. It simply walks quietly beside us, waiting for the right moment to be noticed. McMenamins Edgefield in Troutdale, Oregon, is a place where the past is never truly gone. Originally built in 1911, a sprawling facility intended to house those who had nowhere else to go. The elderly, the sick, the mentally ill, and the destitute. In its early decades, it was a self-sustaining community, with gardens, dairy barns, and workshops where residents worked in exchange for their keep. But it was also a place of quiet suffering. Many who came here lived out their final days in its rooms, and death was a familiar visitor. For decades, countless lives ended on this property, and not all of them seemed to have moved on. The building was left to decay. Hallways filled with peeling paint and dust, and the silence inside grew heavy, as if the walls remembered every whispered prayer and final breath. In 1990, the McMenamins brothers purchased the property, restoring it into a vibrant hotel, brewery, music venue, and gardens. While the building gained new life, some say the restoration awakened old spirits that had lain dormant. Guests checking in today may be greeted by colorful murals, warm lighting, and the scent of craft beer wafting from the pub. But those who stay overnight often leave with more than just fond memories. Reports of paranormal encounters are so common that the staff have grown accustomed to them. Doors open and close without explanation. Lights flicker even when wiring checks reveal no faults. Cold spots drift through the hallways like pockets of winter air, chilling anyone who walks through them. One of the most active areas is the upper floor of the main lodge. Guests often describe waking in the dead of night with an uneasy feeling, only to find a shadowy figure standing at the foot of their bed. These figures never speak and vanish if the lights are turned on, leaving the room still and empty once more. Some visitors believe these are former residents of the poor farm, still wandering through the place they once called home, perhaps confused by the changes or unwilling to leave. The building's cellar holds its own share of eerie stories, now used for storage and maintenance. It was once the domain of staff tending to the sick and dying. Employees working down there sometimes feel an unseen hand brush against their arms or shoulders, as though someone is passing too close in a narrow space. The air carries an unsettling combination of scents, a faint hint of antiseptic mixed with something stale and earthy, reminiscent of both medicine and decay. Musicians who have performed at Edgefield tell of strange occurrences backstage. Instruments go out of tune without being touched, and the sound of footsteps echoes down empty corridors just before a show begins. Some have even claimed to hear faint coughing or murmured voices in dressing rooms when they are alone. On quiet nights, when the music has stopped and the last guests have retired, the atmosphere of the property changes. The once lively hallways grow unnervingly still, and a subtle tension seems to settle in the air. Those who have walked the grounds at these hours report the feeling of being followed, the crunch of unseen footsteps on gravel just a few paces behind them. Looking back reveals nothing, only the dim glow of the building against the night sky. One guest, staying in a room on the top floor, woke in the early morning to find her window wide open, though she had locked it before bed. The curtains billowed inward as if someone had just passed through. Another couple reported hearing heavy boots pacing in the hallway outside their door at 3 a.m. But when they looked, the hall was completely empty. Even the gardens, lush and beautiful by day, have a different character after dark. Shadows shift where there is no wind, and some visitors swear they've seen figures drifting among the hedges, only to vanish when approached. These sightings often come with an unshakable chill, even in summer. The staff, many of whom have worked at Edgefield for years, carried their own collection of stories. One bartender recalls closing late at night, hearing someone humming in a back corner of the pub. Thinking a guest had lingered, he went to check, but the space was empty, and the humming stopped the moment he stepped inside. A housekeeper cleaning a vacant room once felt the mattress depressed beside her, as though someone had sat down. She turned quickly, but there was no one there, only the faint scent of pipe tobacco hanging in the air. Despite these unsettling encounters, the spirits of Edgefield are not thought to be malicious. Most believe they are echoes of the past, residual memories of those who lived and died here. Some guests even feel a strange comfort in the idea that the building's history is still alive. its former residents lingering as quiet witnesses to the present. Still, the combination of beauty and eeriness gives Edgefield its unique character. It's a place where laughter and music spill from the pubs and theaters, yet shadows linger in the corners, where you might wake to the sound of someone pacing your room, only to find no one there, where the scent of antiseptic in a cellar can transport you instantly to a time when the building was a place of hardship, illness, and final farewells. For those who come seeking both charm and a brush with the unexplained, McMenamins Edgefield offers an unforgettable experience. Whether the spirits are simply memories etched into the walls, or something more aware, one thing is certain. In this historic property, the past never stays entirely silent. The Geyser Grand Hotel in Baker City, Oregon, stands as a gilded reminder of the state's gold rush era, a place where opulence once mingled with ambition, greed, and, as many now believe, lingering spirits. Built in 1889 and soon hailed as the Queen of the Mines, the hotel was the pride of Eastern Oregon, attracting wealthy gold prospectors, politicians, dignitaries, and socialites. Its ornate architecture, sweeping staircases, and lavish dining rooms were symbols of success in a rough and often unforgiving frontier. Yet, despite the grandeur, the walls of the Geyser Grand seem to have absorbed more than just the laughter and music of its glory days. They have also held on to the tragedies, heartbreaks, and deaths that unfolded within its walls, energies that refuse to let go. The most famous spirit said to haunt the hotel is the Lady in Blue, a strikingly beautiful woman dressed in an elegant early 1900s gown. Her presence is often announced by the faint scent of perfume, followed by the soft, deliberate clicking of heels against marble. She is most frequently seen descending the grand staircase, her gloved hand brushing lightly along the railing, as if she is making her grand entrance to a ball that ended more than a century ago. Witnesses say she appears solid, almost alive, until she reaches the landing, and then vanishes into thin air. Some speculate she was a wealthy socialite who frequented the hotel in its prime, possibly meeting a tragic end here. Others whispered that she might have been a working woman of the night, entertaining influential men in the upstairs suites. Whatever her story, her image has become so iconic among guests and staff that spotting her is almost considered a rite of passage for visitors with an interest in the paranormal. The Lady in Blue is not the only unexplained figure wandering the hotel. Guests staying in certain rooms report waking in the early hours to see shadowy forms standing near their beds, motionless but undeniably present. The shapes dissolve the moment the light is switched on, leaving the rooms unnaturally cold. Some describe hearing the sound of someone pacing just outside their door. Yet when they check, the hallway is completely empty. Temperature fluctuations are among the most commonly reported phenomena at the Geyser Grand. In the middle of summer, guests have entered rooms to find them icy cold, with a chill that seems to seep into the bones. The heating system, when checked, is always functioning normally. One visitor describes sitting in the lounge late at night when the temperature suddenly plummeted, causing her breath to fog in the air, even though the fireplace beside her was blazing. The cold lasted for less than a minute before the warmth returned, leaving her and her companions in stunned silence. Perhaps the most unnerving experiences occur in the hotel's dining room after hours. Staff, closing up for the night, have often heard the unmistakable sounds of a party taking place in the darkened space. Clinking glasses, bursts of laughter, and even the muted strains of music from a bygone era. One longtime employee recounted locking the doors and turning off the lights, only to hear a lively conversation erupt behind her. She turned around, expecting to find lingering guests, but the room was empty, the tables set but untouched. The sounds faded slowly, as though the party were drifting away into another time. Whispered voices are another recurring theme in the hotel's paranormal reports. Guests walking down the carpeted hallways often hear murmured conversations just over their shoulders, though no one is nearby. Some claim the whispers grow clearer as they approach the grand staircase. while others insist they've felt warm breath against their ear just before the voices stop abruptly. Employees who have worked at the Geyser Grand for years speak of becoming accustomed to its residents from the other side. One bartender swears that on several occasions, bottles on the shelves have shifted or toppled without anyone touching them. Housekeepers have found beds neatly made one moment and the covers pulled back the next, as though an unseen guest has just climbed in. In the kitchen, the clang of pots and pans sometimes echoes in the empty prep area, startling the staff on slow afternoons. Not every spirit here feels menacing. Many who have encountered them describe the sensations as curious rather than threatening. The lady in blue, in particular, is often associated with a sense of elegance and nostalgia, as though she simply refuses to abandon the glamour of her favorite haunt. Still, the unpredictable nature of the phenomena ensures that even the bravest visitors keep their guard up, especially at night. Some paranormal investigators believe the hotel's history contributes heavily to its supernatural activity. Over the decades, the building has seen its share of accidents, illnesses, and untimely deaths. In its early years, miners flush with gold came here to celebrate, and sometimes to drink themselves into oblivion. Bar fights occasionally turn deadly, and rumors persist of illicit affairs ending in violence. The Geyser Grand also served as a gathering place during times of hardship, and those who fell on desperate times often found themselves lingering in its shadow, even in death. In recent years, ghost tours and paranormal events have become part of the hotel's identity. Guests can book rooms rumored to be the most active, though the hotel does not guarantee a spectral sighting. Many visitors, however, leave with stories they swear are true, and photos containing strange mists, glowing orbs, or even faint outlines of figures. The Geyser Grand Hotel remains a striking landmark in Baker City, a place where the past and present seem to blur in its gilded halls. Whether drawn by the history, the architecture, or the hope of catching a glimpse of the lady in blue, visitors inevitably leave with the same impression. This is not just a hotel, but a place where time refuses to move on. And for some, neither do its guests. The Benson Hotel in Portland, Oregon, stands as a testament to early 20th century elegance. Commissioned by wealthy lumber baron Simon Benson, the hotel was meant to be the crown jewel of the city, a place where refined architecture and opulent interiors would rival the great hotels of Europe. The grand lobbies, high ceilings, gilded detailing, and polished woodwork still radiate the charm of a bygone era. But for all its beauty, the Benson Hotel carries something else within its walls, a presence that time has not erased. Guests and employees alike tell of strange occurrences, subtle at first, but growing more unnerving with each passing moment. Many stories center around the 12th floor, where a distinguished man in a dark suit has been spotted roaming the hallways. His features are refined, his posture straight, and he exudes the quiet confidence of a man accustomed to command. Witnesses say he appears completely solid, often making brief eye contact before vanishing into thin air. Some believe this mysterious figure is none other than Simon Benson himself, returning to oversee his creation. Those who have seen him often remark on a peculiar detail. He is always walking toward a specific corner of the hallway, as though drawn to a place long forgotten. Stranger still are the encounters that happen behind closed doors. Several guests have woken suddenly in the night to an unsettling sensation, the weight of someone sitting on the bed beside them. They describe feeling the mattress dip under an unseen figure, the indentation remaining for several seconds even after they have scrambled away in alarm. When they turn on the lights, the room is empty, the air heavy and cold. The unease lingers long after, often accompanied by the faintest whiff of cigar smoke. Though smoking has been banned inside the hotel for decades, the Benson is also known for its ghostly music. Late at night, when the hallways grow quiet and the city sounds fade, guests sometimes hear the delicate strains of piano music drifting through the air. The melody is faint, almost wistful, as if played from memory. The sound seems to come from the lobby, where a gleaming grand piano sits in the corner. But upon inspection, the piano is always closed, untouched, and the lobby stands empty under the dim glow of the chandeliers. Security staff, accustomed to unusual reports, have checked the surveillance cameras during such incidents. Yet no one is seen near the instrument. Employees working late shifts tell their own stories. One front desk clerk recalls walking through the empty dining room after hours to turn off lights when he heard the murmur of voices. At first, he thought it was a group of late diners, but as he stepped closer, the voices became clearer. Laughter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of conversation, like a lively gathering. Yet, when he opened the door fully, the room was dark, the tables neatly set, and no one was there. The sound stopped instantly, replaced by a suffocating silence. He left quickly, the shimmering outline of a man raising a glass in a silent toast. Housekeeping staff, too, have reported unsettling moments. In some rooms, objects are found, moved from their usual places. A neatly folded towel might be unfolded and draped across the sink. A chair will be pulled out from the desk when no one has entered the room. One cleaner spoke of entering a suite to find all the curtains drawn tight against the sunlight, even though she had left them open less than an hour earlier. She also noticed the distinct sound of footsteps pacing slowly in the adjacent bedroom, only to discover that it was empty. While many assume Simon Benson himself is the hotel's most prominent ghost, others speak of a woman who roams the halls, her presence far more elusive. She is described as wearing an early 20th century dress, her hair pinned up in the style of the 1910s. Unlike Benson's steady, almost reassuring appearances, the woman's sightings are fleeting. A figure glimpsed in a mirror, a shadow slipping into an empty room, a soft perfume lingering in the air where no one stands. One theory suggests she was a long-term guest who passed away unexpectedly, still tied to the elegance and comfort she knew in life. The atmosphere of the Benson lends itself to such tales. At night, the warm golden light in the hallways fades into shadowed corners. The patterned carpets seem to hush footsteps, and the ornate wooden doors appear almost watchful, as if aware of those who pass by. On stormy nights, when rain lashes against the tall windows and wind howls down the streets outside, the hotel feels cocooned from the world, yet not entirely empty. The ghosts here are not loud or violent, but they are present. Their quiet persistence, a reminder that some legacies refuse to fade. Guests who come for the history and luxury often leave with stories of their own, unsure whether they encountered a trick of the mind or something far older than themselves. A man in a suit walking the halls, a bed dipping under unseen weight, a phantom melody echoing through the night. Whether these are simply echoes of the past or the restless spirits of those who loved the Benson too much to leave, the effect is the same. The hotel holds its visitors in a spell of beauty and mystery. More than a century after Simon Benson's vision became reality, the Benson Hotel remains one of Portland's most beloved landmarks. Yet beneath its polished elegance lies a quieter truth, one felt more than seen. The sense that its story is still being written, not just by the living, but by those who refuse to leave. And so, the marble floors gleam, the chandeliers sparkle, and in the shadows, the past walks quietly alongside the present. The Gray Lady is believed to be the ghost of the caretaker's wife from the early 1900s, a woman who spent much of her life tending to the lighthouse and supporting her husband's duties. Witnesses describe her as a tall, ethereal figure dressed in flowing gray, her face almost always hidden beneath a delicate veil. She moves silently through the keeper's house, gliding from room to room with a grace that seems both comforting and unsettling. Those who have encountered her often report a feeling of being observed, an awareness that someone is silently present even when the rooms appear empty. Over the years, workers and visitors have reported a variety of strange occurrences within the lighthouse and its keeper's house. Tools vanish mysteriously, only to reappear in entirely different locations, sometimes on shelves or countertops where they were never placed. Windows have shattered without explanation, and lights flicker erratically despite functioning electrical systems. Staff have noted sudden drops in temperature, particularly in hallways and corners, accompanied by an almost tangible sensation of being watched. It is as if the Gray Lady lingers, moving unseen through her former home, ensuring that her presence is never forgotten. Guests staying overnight in the keeper's house sometimes wake to inexplicable sensations. Many describe the subtle scent of lavender, delicate and pervasive, filling the room with no visible source. Others report the soft hum of a lullaby, the kind of quiet, repetitive sound one would associate with rocking a child to sleep. These experiences are often fleeting, vanishing when lights are turned on or when a person rises to investigate, leaving only a lingering sense of unease and wonder. The combination of fragrance and sound seems to suggest that the Gray Lady carries with her fragments of domestic life, echoes of a time when the lighthouse was not just a beacon, but a home filled with routines, care, and vigilance. The ethereal presence is most commonly felt in the keeper's house itself, a space that was once the heart of daily activity. Visitors describe seeing fleeting shadows moving along walls or across floors, reflections in mirrors or windows that vanish when examined closely. The sensation of an invisible hand brushing past is not uncommon. While these manifestations are rarely aggressive, they convey a strong sense of purpose and continuity, as though the Gray Lady is bound to her home and its history, watching over it long after her passing. Heceta Head Lighthouse's isolated location and natural surroundings seem to amplify these experiences. The crashing waves, the howling winds, and the persistent coastal fog already create an eerie atmosphere. But when combined with the subtle supernatural activity, the lighthouse becomes a place where the line between the living and the departed seems to blur. Visitors often describe a heightened awareness, as if the air itself is charged with a presence that is both watchful and protective. The sense of history is almost tangible, an invisible layer of memory that overlays the physical structure. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Heceta Head, documenting unusual occurrences with cameras, audio recorders, and temperature sensors. Many have recorded faint whispers or unexplained sounds, while others have captured fleeting shadows on film. Sudden drops in temperature and inexplicable movement of objects provide additional evidence of an unseen presence. While skeptics often attribute these phenomena to environmental factors, drafts, or the imagination, the sheer consistency of accounts from workers, guests, and investigators over decades suggests that there is something more, something beyond the ordinary, residing in the keeper's house. Despite the ghostly activity, Heceta Head Lighthouse remains a cherished destination. Tourists are drawn by its stunning vistas, rich history, and architectural beauty, often unaware that they are walking among echoes of the past. For those who do sense the Gray Lady's presence, the experience is rarely frightening. Instead, it is more like encountering a guardian, a figure tethered to the lighthouse, ensuring that the memory of its caretakers, their lives, and their stories are not forgotten. The spirit becomes a part of the landscape, a silent witness to the passage of time, watching over the lighthouse and its visitors with quiet diligence. The story of the Gray Lady is emblematic of Heceta Head Lighthouse itself, a place where history and mystery intertwine, where the present is inseparable from the past. Her presence is a reminder that some places carry the imprint of those who lived and loved, their energy lingering long after their bodies have gone. Visitors leave with more than photographs and memories of breathtaking views. They carry with them a sense of the invisible, an acknowledgement that some spirits remain to guide, protect, or simply be witnessed. Heceta Head Lighthouse continues its work as a beacon for ships along Oregon's rugged coast. But within the keeper's house, time moves differently. The Gray Lady remains, gliding through the halls, hidden beneath her veil. Her soft presence, a testament to devotion, memory, and the enduring connection between the living and the departed. For those who pause to notice, she is a gentle reminder that some guardians never truly leave, and that the lighthouse is not only a guide for sailors, but a home for a spirit that refuses to be forgotten. The Oregon State Hospital in Salem, Oregon, is a place steeped in both history and darkness. While it gained fame as the filming location for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the hospital's true past is far more harrowing than any movie could convey. Established in the 1880s as the Oregon State Insane Asylum, The facility was intended to care for the mentally ill, but over time it became overcrowded, underfunded. Thousands of patients lived and died within its walls, many without proper medical attention, many buried in unmarked graves on the surrounding grounds. The weight of so much suffering seems to linger, giving the hospital an atmosphere that is both heavy and unsettling. Walking through the old wards, visitors often describe a feeling that is hard to put into words. The air seems thicker here, heavy with sorrow. Hallways that are silent to the untrained eye are said to echo with faint shuffling footsteps, as though former patients are pacing behind you, repeating the motions of a long-forgotten routine. Some staff members report hearing distant murmurs, fragmented conversations, or soft cries that vanish as soon as you turn a corner, often in despair. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Guests touring the museum section of the hospital recount glimpsing shapes moving in peripheral vision, figures that vanish when looked at directly. Some have reported seeing a man pacing in a room where patients were once restrained, his movements precise and deliberate, while others describe a woman standing silently in a doorway, staring toward the hallway with an expressionless face. Though no one else is present, the impression is unmistakable. Someone, or something, is still walking these halls. The hospital's architecture itself seems to amplify these experiences. Narrow corridors, high ceilings, and the persistent creak of wooden floors create a sense of isolation and unease. Rooms that were once isolation wards carry a particularly oppressive energy. Visitors often describe stepping into these spaces and feeling a sudden chill, the temperature dropping inexplicably despite warm weather or functional heating. In some cases, the chill is accompanied by the unmistakable scent of antiseptic and old linen, mingled with something less definable, a lingering odor of sorrow and decay that clings to clothing and skin. Some of the more unnerving encounters occur in the old treatment areas. Visitors have reported hearing the faint scraping of chairs, the jingle of keys, or the low murmur of a voice calling out a name. In one room, a museum volunteer recounted seeing a shadow glide across the wall just above the floor, following the curve of the corridor as though guided by an unseen hand. When she moved closer, the shadow faded into the corner, leaving nothing but the lingering sense of being watched. The hospital's history offers context for these experiences. During the early 20th century, patients were often treated with experimental procedures that were as frightening as they were dangerous. Electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and other invasive treatments were performed without modern safeguards. Overcrowding meant that patients often shared small rooms, with little privacy or dignity, and understaffed conditions left many in neglect. Death was a constant presence, and the unmarked graves scattered across the property speak to the countless lives that ended without ceremony or remembrance. Some believe that the trauma endured here left an imprint on the building itself, creating a residual energy that continues to manifest for visitors today. Even in the hospital's museum area, designed to educate the public about its history, the presence of the past is palpable. Exhibits of antique medical instruments, patient records, and photographs seem to carry an emotional weight, and guests often feel as if they are not alone while viewing them. Some report the sensation of a cold draft brushing their arms, or the faint pressure of an invisible hand resting lightly on a shoulder. Others have described the sensation of eyes following them from the exhibits, as if those long gone are still observing how their stories are remembered. Security personnel and staff have their own accounts. One night, a security guard patrolling the halls heard footsteps echoing behind him, quick and uneven, like someone running to catch up. When he turned, no one was there, but the sound continued for several steps before vanishing. Another employee described seeing the outline of a person standing in the corner of a former ward, only to have it dissolve like smoke when approached. Even the most skeptical workers often admit to feeling a pervasive sadness, an almost physical weight in certain parts of the hospital. Many paranormal investigators consider the Oregon State Hospital a hotspot for residual hauntings, experiences that are imprints of intense emotional energy rather than conscious spirits. The overwhelming sense of sorrow, the echoes of movement, and the unexplained noises all align with this theory. Yet for some visitors, the encounters feel more interactive, as though the spirits are aware of those present, briefly acknowledging their intrusion before returning to their silent vigil. For those who visit today, the hospital is both educational and haunting. The museum preserves the architecture, artifacts, and stories of the facility's long history, but it cannot fully shield visitors from the echoes of the past. Tourists, historians, and curious explorers alike often leave with a profound sense of the human suffering that once took place here, a weight that is carried invisibly yet unmistakably through the halls. Walking through the Oregon State Hospital is an experience that combines history, empathy, and unease. The clatter of unseen footsteps, the cold drafts, the whisper of voices, and the shadowy figures all serve as reminders of lives lived under extreme conditions, many of them forgotten by the outside world. It is a place where the past is not silent, where sorrow clings to the walls, and where every visitor is invited to witness, if only for a fleeting moment, the lingering presence of those who never truly left. The heavy, sorrowful energy seeps into your bones, leaving an indelible impression that lingers long after you walk away. The Wolf Creek Inn, tucked away in the dense forests of southern Oregon, has welcomed travelers since 1883. Over the decades, it has gained a reputation not only for its historic charm, but also for its supernatural activity. Visitors are drawn to the inn's antique furnishings, creaking wooden floors, and scenic surroundings. Yet those who spend time here soon realize that the building holds more than history within its walls. It is home to a presence that has lingered for over a century. A spectral woman in a long white dress, quietly haunting the inn. Guests and staff alike have reported seeing the figure drifting silently along the upstairs hallways. She moves with a calm, deliberate grace, her pale dress flowing as though caught in an invisible breeze. Her face often obscured, giving her an air of mystery and melancholy. Some have glimpsed her at the top of the staircase or standing at the end of a corridor, only to have her vanish when approached. Others describe the unsettling feeling of being watched, a presence that seems both patient and persistent, as if the woman is retracing familiar paths from her lifelong past. The guest rooms carry their own tales of the unexplained. Visitors often awaken in the dead of night to the sensation of a cold hand brushing against their cheek. The touch is brief but unmistakable, leaving a lingering chill that spreads through the room. Some have felt the weight of an invisible figure sitting at the foot of their bed, only to discover that the room is empty when they turn on the lights. These experiences are frequent enough that repeat visitors are often prepared for them, entering the inn with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The inn itself seems to amplify the presence of its ghostly resident. Narrow hallways, low ceilings, and the creaking of age-old floorboards create an atmosphere where even the smallest noise is magnified. Doors close softly on their own, giving the impression that someone is moving unseen through the rooms. Footsteps echo along corridors where no one walks, and shadows sometimes shift in the dim glow of antique lamps. Guests and staff report the sensation of a presence brushing past them or following them silently, always just out of reach, heightening the feeling that the inn is alive with unseen activity. Some believe the woman in white is a remnant of the inn's past, perhaps a former resident, caretaker, or guest who died there, her spirit unable to leave the place she once called home. Another theory suggests that she is a traveler lost long ago, bound to the inn by unfinished business or sorrow. Whatever the truth, her presence is consistent and enduring, appearing repeatedly to witnesses across decades. She seems tied not only to the physical building but also to its history, walking its hallways as she did in life, maintaining a quiet connection to the world of the living. Staff members have grown accustomed to the unusual occurrences. Housekeepers recount finding chairs pulled out from vanity tables, objects moved mysteriously, and a faint perfume lingering in empty rooms. Many speak of the feeling of being observed while performing routine tasks, a sensation that often intensifies in the upper floors. For those who work late into the evening, the inn can feel like a space where the past and present overlap. where every shadow and whisper carries the weight of memory. Despite the hauntings, the Wolf Creek Inn continues to be a beloved destination. Visitors are drawn to its historic charm, scenic location, and the thrill of the paranormal. The combination of hospitality and ghostly presence creates an experience that is memorable, sometimes unnerving, yet always fascinating. The woman in white is not malevolent. She observes quietly, leaving subtle signs of her presence rather than causing harm. She has become part of the inn's identity, a spectral witness to its history and its ongoing life as a place of hospitality. For those who stay overnight, the Wolf Creek Inn offers more than a simple retreat. It is a place where history is palpable, where the creaking floors and antique furnishings carry echoes of lives that have passed through. The ghostly woman in white, drifting silently along the hallways and touching the living with fleeting gestures, reminds guests that the inn is not only a home for travelers, but also a sanctuary for memories and spirits that refuse to fade. In the quiet hours of the night, as the wind moves through the surrounding trees and the floorboards creak under unseen weight, the Wolf Creek Inn becomes a living link between the past and the present. The woman in white lingers, a gentle and haunting presence that watches over the inn, her story intertwined with its history. Guests who encounter her leave with more than memories of antique furniture and cozy rooms. They leave with a sense of having touched the unseen, having shared a space with a spirit that has called the Wolf Creek Inn home for over a century. The Liberty Theater in Astoria, Oregon, is a landmark of history, elegance, and mystery. Opened in 1925, it was designed to impress, with its lavish ornate plasterwork and gilded balconies. The theater quickly became a cultural hub, drawing crowds eager to experience live performances, films, and the magic of the stage. Yet behind the glitz and glamour lies a different kind of presence, a series of restless spirits that have been reported by actors, staff, and visitors over decades, creating an atmosphere where history and the supernatural intertwine. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is a man in a gray suit. Actors and stagehands claim to have seen him seated in the balcony long after the audience has left, his posture straight, his gaze fixed on the empty stage below. He never speaks or moves toward anyone, and when approached, he vanishes without a trace. Some believe he is a stagehand who tragically died in an accident, a man whose attachment to the theater prevents him from leaving. Others suggest he may be a patron from the theater's early days, eternally returning to watch performances that are no longer staged for him. Regardless of his origin, the gray-suited figure has become a consistent presence, a silent observer of the theater's life long after the final curtain falls. Crew members often report sudden cold spots that seem to materialize out of nowhere. Chills so intense they penetrate through multiple layers of clothing. Whispering voices frequently echo from dark corners or just behind people as they move through the corridors. Many have heard their names called softly, only to find that no one is there. And some have reported the sensation of being gently brushed by an invisible hand as they navigate through the wings. Props occasionally shift on their own, curtains sway when no one is nearby, and equipment has been known to malfunction in ways that defy explanation. These occurrences are often subtle but persistent, a quiet reminder that the theater is more than its architecture and audience seats. It is a space alive with memories, and perhaps something more. The stage itself is not immune to these disturbances. Actors rehearsing alone sometimes report feeling as if they are being watched, a sensation that intensifies in the dim glow of stage lights. Shadows flicker at the edges of their vision, and faint sounds, footsteps, murmurs, or the subtle clatter of props, often accompany moments of quiet rehearsal. Some performers have described hearing laughter, applause, or even snippets of dialogue in empty spaces. Echoes of performances long past. The theater seems to remember every scene, every performance, and every individual who once walked across its boards. Audience members have occasionally experienced the supernatural as well. Even during matinees or daytime events, lights can flicker inexplicably. Chairs creak without being occupied, and footsteps echo across the aisles as though a hidden crowd is present. The theater's ornate architecture amplifies these sensations. The high ceilings, arched balconies, and elaborate moldings create an environment where sounds carry and shadows stretch unnaturally, heightening the impression that the space is alive with unseen observers. The gray-suited figure has become a focal point for those interested in the Liberty Theater's paranormal activity. One former stage manager recounted preparing the theater for a performance and seeing the man seated near the center of the balcony. The stage manager called out, assuming it was a late-arriving guest, but the figure vanished instantly. Since that encounter, he made it a habit to nod or tip an imaginary hat toward the balcony, as though acknowledging a presence that had always been there, silently watching over the theater and its productions. Musicians and orchestra members have also reported peculiar phenomena. Instruments sometimes produce notes without being touched, or sheet music flutters in midair. Pianists describe hearing faint echoes of keys played in rhythm with, yet slightly out of sync from, their own performance. Drummers have recounted hearing ghostly beats reverberating from the wings, as if an unseen percussionist is keeping time. These experiences suggest that the theater spirits are not passive observers. They interact subtly with the living, leaving traces that are detectable to those sensitive to the environment. Despite the eerie activity, the Liberty Theater remains a cherished cultural and historical site. Visitors are drawn by the ornate architecture, rich performance history, and the thrill of the unexplained. Staff and performers often treat the hauntings as part of the theater's character rather than a source of fear. The presence of the gray-suited figure and the subtle paranormal phenomena are woven into the identity of the Liberty, creating a space that is as mysterious as it is beautiful. Paranormal investigators have frequently documented the Liberty Theater, capturing unexplained audio, temperature fluctuations, and fleeting shadows on video, while skeptics often cite drafts, acoustics, or imagination as explanations. The consistency of reports over nearly a century lends credibility to the accounts of those who have encountered the spirits. The theater's combination of history, human emotion, and architectural resonance seems to create a setting where the past refuses to remain silent. The story of the man in the gray suit exemplifies the haunting nature of the Liberty Theater. He is not violent or aggressive. Rather, he quietly observes, a guardian of memories and performances, tethered to a place where the curtains never truly fall. His presence serves as a reminder that spaces we consider inanimate may carry the echoes of those who lived, worked, and loved within them. At the Liberty Theater, the line between the living and the spectral is blurred. In each rehearsal, performance, and quiet moment is shared with spirits who remain loyal to the theater they called home. For anyone stepping into the Liberty Theater, the experience is more than attending a performance or admiring architecture. It is an immersion into a place where history lingers, shadows move, and a gray-suited figure continues his eternal vigil. The theater is alive with stories, with memories, and with spirits who have refused to leave, ensuring that the Liberty remains a space where the past is always present, watching, listening, and waiting for the next curtain to rise. Battery Russell, part of Fort Stevens on Oregon's rugged coastline, stands as a silent witness to history. Constructed in the early 20th century as part of the United States coastal defense system, the concrete bunkers and gun emplacements were designed to protect the Columbia River and surrounding areas from naval threats. Over time, the site became more than a military installation. It became a stage for tragedy, memory, and, according to countless visitors, lingering spirits. Among the haunting tales tied to Battery Russell is that of a soldier who died in a freak accident. During World War II, his death left an imprint on the site, one that seems to linger in the very air around the decaying structures. Visitors exploring the long-abandoned bunkers often describe an atmosphere thick with anticipation and unease. Even on sunny afternoons, the concrete walls and narrow passageways feel heavy with history, as if the echoes of the past are embedded in the crumbling surfaces. As fog rolls in from the Pacific, the experience grows even more unsettling. transforming the bunkers into shadowed corridors where imagination and memory intertwine. It is here that many report encountering phenomena that cannot be easily explained. One of the most common experiences involves the sounds of soldiers long gone. Footsteps echo across the concrete floors, heavy and deliberate, as if troops are marching in formation. The cadence is steady and rhythmic, filling the empty bunkers with the unmistakable presence of military discipline. Visitors have also reported muffled shouts and distant calls, voices that seem to come from the direction of the gun emplacements or the narrow hallways that connect the various sections of the battery. These sounds are precise, almost tangible, yet when investigated, there is no one there, only the lingering fog and the vast, empty spaces of the decaying fortifications. The visual phenomena at Battery Russell are equally compelling. Flashlights carried by explorers often flicker inexplicably, casting uneven pools of light across the walls. Shadows move in ways that defy explanation, sometimes darting quickly across corners or appearing elongated against the surfaces of the bunkers. Some witnesses claim to see uniformed figures standing rigidly at attention, just at the edge of vision, only to vanish when directly observed. Others have reported fleeting glimpses of a soldier descending stairwells or rounding a corner, his presence solid enough to startle the observer, yet gone within moments. The fog that rolls in from the Columbia River estuary seems to act as a veil, blending reality with memory. It obscures the structures, softens sounds, and transforms familiar landmarks into ambiguous shapes. Within this gray haze, the battery feels alive, as though the men who once stood guard are still performing their duties. It is easy to imagine the historical soldiers patrolling the bunkers, inspecting guns, and maintaining vigilance. Even though the threats of the past have long faded, the environment amplifies the sense that the battery is not entirely empty, that time has layered itself into the very walls. Some believe that the soldier who died in the World War II accident remains tied to Battery Russell. His presence felt most acutely during quiet hours or when the fog is thick. Accounts suggest that he is not malevolent, but deeply anchored to the site by the events of his untimely death. Explorers have described sudden chills that sweep through passageways, the sound of boots striking the floor in perfect rhythm, and an overwhelming sensation of being watched as though someone is monitoring their every move. These occurrences create a palpable connection between the present and the past, a reminder of the human cost of duty and the lives lived within these concrete walls. The battery itself, though deteriorating from decades of exposure to wind, rain, and salt spray, holds the stories of countless soldiers who served there. Each corridor, stairwell, and gun emplacement seems infused with the memory of drills, orders, and daily routines. Visitors often remark that the haunting atmosphere is inseparable from the physical site. The architecture, the weathered surfaces, and the fog all combine to create a space where history is not static but ongoing. In this way, Battery Russell is more than a relic. It is a living monument to those who served and to the echoes of the tragedy that occurred there. Paranormal enthusiasts have long been drawn to the site, documenting the eerie sounds and fleeting shadows with audio recorders, cameras, and night vision equipment. Many have captured unexplained flickers of light, irregular temperature drops, and faint silhouettes in the fog. While skeptics argue that the phenomena can be attributed to environmental conditions, wind, echoes, or optical illusions, the consistency of reports over decades lends weight to the idea that something more than history remains at Battery Russell. The echoes of past lives seem tangible, almost as if the men who once served there have left a permanent imprint on the structure itself. Visitors who approach Battery Russell often leave with a sense of reverence mixed with unease. It is a place where the past is omnipresent, where the boundary between history and the supernatural is blurred. The sound of marching boots, the occasional muffled voice, and the fleeting shadows all serve as reminders that the battery was built for vigilance and sacrifice. In this way, Battery Russell remains an active witness to the lives that once unfolded within its walls, and to the soldier whose life ended too soon. leaving an indelible mark on the place he was sworn to protect. Ultimately, Battery Russell is not just a decaying military installation on the Oregon coast. It is a space where memory, history, and lingering presence converge. The soldiers, particularly the one lost in the accident, appear to continue their duties, unseen yet unmistakably present. Exploring the bunkers is to step into a corridor of time, where the past walks alongside the living and the watch never ends. Even long after the threat of war has faded, the echoes of duty remain. Boots marching, voices calling, and shadows standing vigilant, guarding the battery as faithfully as they did in life. A time capsule preserving the life and legacy of Chinese immigrants in the late 19th century. Originally established as a general store and apothecary by Ing He and his partner, Lung Gan, the building served as a hub for the local community, offering goods, herbal remedies, and medical treatments that were often the only source of care for settlers and miners in the area. Over a century later, the museum preserves not only the physical artifacts of that era, shelves lined with jars of herbs, counters stacked with tins and boxes, and cabinets filled with delicate tools and paperwork, but also the intangible presence of the people who once worked there. Most notably, many visitors and staff claim that Ing He himself, the revered herbalist and storekeeper, still lingers among the dusty aisles. Upon entering the museum, visitors are immediately struck by the sensation of stepping back in time. The air is thick with the faint, lingering scent of herbs and old wood, creating an atmosphere that feels at once familiar and otherworldly. The shelves, meticulously organized with centuries-old apothecary jars, bottles, and boxes, remain untouched, as though frozen in the moment when the store last closed its doors. This preservation of history lends a peculiar sense of intimacy. It is within this timeless environment that visitors often encounter inexplicable phenomena, experiences that many interpret as the enduring presence of Ing He himself. One of the most commonly reported experiences is the sudden and unmistakable scent of incense appearing without any visible source. The smell often manifests in areas historically used for preparing herbal remedies. Visitors recount that the incense seems to materialize in response to movement or attention, as if Ing He is subtly signaling his presence, guiding them through the space he once meticulously cared for. Some report feeling a sudden warmth in the air or a gentle shift in atmosphere when the scent appears. Accompanying the fragrance are the soft, deliberate creaks of floorboards that seem to appear in areas where no one else is walking. The rhythm of these noises is said to mimic the measured steps of someone performing careful work, reminiscent of a storekeeper tending to goods and customers. Many visitors have experienced the unsettling sensation of following the footsteps only to find the space empty, reinforcing the belief that the sounds belong to an unseen presence. Occasionally, these creaks are accompanied by the feeling of a subtle pressure on the shoulder or a fleeting chill, heightening the impression that the building is inhabited by more than just history. The auditory phenomena extend beyond footsteps. Some visitors report hearing a faint clearing of the throat, soft enough to be almost imperceptible yet unmistakable in the quiet museum. Others describe whispers or hushed murmurs emanating from the corners of the room, indistinct words that evoke the sense of instructions being given or consultations being conducted. These sounds often occur near the original workspaces of Ing He, suggesting that his presence remains particularly strong in the areas where he spent most of his life. For many, the combination of scent, sound, and spatial energy creates a palpable feeling of being watched or guided, a presence that is both protective and attentive. Visitors have also reported subtle visual anomalies. Dust motes suspended in sunlight occasionally appear to shift against natural currents, forming vague shapes or fleeting outlines of a human figure. Some claim to catch a glimpse of a silhouette moving just out of the corner of their eye, vanishing when looked at directly. In photographs taken within the museum, faint shadows or irregular light patterns sometimes appear near shelves or counters, unaccounted for by reflections or camera error. The consistency of reports over decades has made them an integral part of the museum's story. The museum's preserved artifacts enhance the sensation that Inghei's presence endures. Cabinets still contain jars of dried herbs, scales, and medicinal tools meticulously arranged as they were during his lifetime. Visitors often feel drawn to these items, reporting a sense of reverence or the subtle impression that the objects themselves hold memories of his careful touch. Some have described the uncanny feeling that someone unseen is observing their interactions with the displays, as though Inghei continues to monitor the museum's legacy, ensuring that his work is remembered and respected. The combination of history, environment, and sensory experience contributes to an atmosphere. Audio recorders sometimes capture faint creaks, whispers. Cameras occasionally record slight movement or shadows near the aisles, while temperature fluctuations and cold spots are reported by staff and visitors alike. The recurring experiences and the consistency of reports over decades suggest a presence of something more enduring. For those who spend time in the museum, the experience is both immersive and emotional. Walking among the shelves, inhaling the subtle scent of incense, hearing the floorboards creak, and feeling the soft presence in the corners of the room evokes a profound connection to Inghei and the people who once populated the space. That the building itself is more than a collection of artifacts. It is a living testament to memory and devotion. Ultimately, the Kamwachung Museum is a place where history, legend, and lingering spirit converge. Inghei's presence is felt in the aroma of incense, the creaking of floorboards, the clearing of a throat, and the occasional shadowy figure. The museum transcends its physical artifacts, offering a connection to a man who dedicated his life to caring for others, preserving culture, and serving his community. In the quiet moments, amid the dusty aisles and old jars, one can feel his vigilance, his attention to detail, and his enduring spirit. The museum is more than a window into the past. It is a space where the past walks alongside the living, guiding, observing. Crater Lake, nestled in the caldera of a long-extinct volcano, is renowned for its astonishingly deep blue waters and breathtaking scenery. Among its most striking features is a jagged rock formation known as the Phantom Ship, a spire-like island that juts from the lake's surface like a ghostly vessel frozen in time. While visitors marvel at its rugged beauty during the day, many are unaware that the lake and its enigmatic formation have long been the focus of strange sightings, mysterious legends, and tales of lingering spirits. For centuries, Native American tribes, early settlers, and modern visitors alike have reported experiences that suggest the Phantom Ship is more than a simple geological curiosity. The lore surrounding Crater Lake is deeply rooted in Native American tradition. Klamath's tribal legends speak of the lake as a sacred place, inhabited by powerful spirits who guard the waters and the surrounding lands. According to these stories, the spirits can be protective, but they are also quick to punish those who show disrespect. Hikers and explorers have recounted feeling an invisible presence while near the lake's edge, a sensation of being watched, sometimes accompanied by sudden chills or the hair standing on the back of one's neck. Some have said that failing to honor the land can result in disorientation, accidents, or, in the most extreme cases, disappearance. The Phantom Ship itself is seen as a focal point for these spirits, a place where the veil between the physical world and the spiritual realm is particularly thin. Visitors who gaze across the lake have sometimes reported seeing what appears to be a canoe or small boat gliding silently across the water, often at night or in early morning fog. These phantom vessels seem to move without any source of propulsion, their outlines shimmering and sometimes vanishing entirely as mist rolls over the lake. Some witnesses have described the eerie sensation of being followed by the ghostly canoe, as if it is always just beyond sight, drifting alongside the shoreline. The effect is particularly pronounced on still mornings, when the glassy surface of the lake reflects the sky and the distant rim of the caldera, creating a surreal, otherworldly atmosphere. The Phantom Ship rock formation itself has been the site of numerous unsettling encounters. Hikers report seeing figures standing atop the jagged spires, often silhouetted against the deep blue water. These figures sometimes appear to move slowly, observing those on the shore, only to vanish suddenly into the mist. Some describe seeing multiple figures at once, dressed in garments that appear to be from a bygone era, or even in the traditional attire of Native Americans. The sudden disappearance of these figures leaves witnesses questioning whether they had ever been there at all. Many describe the feeling of an invisible boundary, a sense that approaching the phantom ship too closely invites the attention of the lake's guardians. The lake itself is often described as having a presence, a subtle awareness that seems to respond to human behavior. Rowers, kayakers, and boaters have reported sudden gusts of wind that appear with no weather warning, or waves that rise as if guided by unseen hands. Visitors walking along the rim trails sometimes experience vertigo or a disorienting sensation, as though the landscape itself is subtly shifting just beyond the reach of explanation. Even in recorded history, Crater Lake has been associated with mysterious disappearances. Early settlers and explorers sometimes failed to return from expeditions along the rim or down to the lake shore. While many of these incidents could be attributed to treacherous terrain and sudden weather changes, local lore often points to supernatural causes. Tales persist that those who ignored the sacred nature of the lake, venturing too close to the phantom ship, or behaving disrespectfully, were never seen again. Over time, these stories cemented the lake's reputation as a place where the spiritual and natural worlds intersect, where beauty and danger coexist in equal measure. The combination of geography, weather, and legend creates an environment ripe for eerie encounters. Fog and mist roll in quickly over the lake, concealing the waters and the phantom ship, then clearing suddenly, revealing shapes and forms that seem impossible. The stillness of the water amplifies every sound. The splash of a fish, the creak of a distant tree, or the wind shifting across the rim, making the environment feel alive with unseen activity. Visitors often describe the sensation of being observed from multiple angles at once, a feeling that the lake is aware, that it remembers every footstep along its shores. Paranormal investigators and thrill seekers have explored Crater Lake for decades, attempting to capture evidence of the ghostly canoes or figures on the phantom ship. Audio devices sometimes record faint splashes or voices that cannot be explained by wind or wildlife. Cameras occasionally catch vague shapes or misty silhouettes that vanish when approached. While skeptics argue that fog, reflections, and optical illusions can account for much of what is seen, the sheer consistency of reports across decades and from diverse witnesses suggests that the phantom ship holds something more than natural mystery. Ultimately, Crater Lake's phantom ship is a symbol of the intersection between nature, history, and the supernatural. It is a place where the beauty of the landscape is intertwined with a sense of reverence and caution, a reminder that the land carries memory and spirit. Those who approach it with respect may be rewarded with glimpses of the unexplained, moments where the lake reveals itself in ways that defy logic. Others, however, may encounter the lake's power more intensely, sensing the presence of guardians and the weight of past events. To stand at the rim, looking down upon the deep blue waters and the jagged spire of the phantom ship, is to feel a connection to something ancient and watchful. Ghostly canoes drift across the surface, shadowy figures appear atop the rocks, and a subtle sense of being observed pervades the air. Crater Lake is more than a natural wonder. It is a realm where the physical and spiritual merge, a place where the phantom ship carries the echoes of the past, and the spirits of the lake continue to guard it, silently, eternally, and unwaveringly. The Yaquina Bay Lighthouse, perched on the rugged Oregon coast in Newport, is a small but enduring symbol of maritime history. Though it was active for only 3 short years in the 1870s, its legacy extends far beyond its functional days, guiding ships into Yaquina Bay. Today, it stands as a historical site, attracting tourists, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Yet behind the weathered exterior and the salty sea air lies a story that is whispered among locals and visitors. The tale of Muriel, a young woman who vanished under mysterious circumstances during a fierce coastal storm, leaving a lingering presence said to haunt the lighthouse to this day. According to legend, Muriel entered the lighthouse one stormy night, seeking shelter from the driving wind and torrential rain. No one knows exactly what happened inside, but she never emerged. Over the years, sightings of a spectral figure in a long dress, moving silently through the lantern room or along the spiral staircase, have been reported. Visitors often describe her silhouette as ethereal, illuminated faintly by the moonlight filtering through the old windows, a fleeting figure that disappears when approached. Some have compared the feeling of her presence to a sudden chill in the air, a tangible sense of another soul lingering just out of reach. The spiral staircase of the lighthouse is often at the center of paranormal encounters. Its tight, winding steps seem to amplify sound, and many who climb them alone have reported hearing the faint echo of footsteps that do not match their own. Some say these steps are deliberate, moving slowly and purposefully, as if someone is ascending or descending in a quiet ritual that has persisted for over a century. The sound of Muriel's footsteps is often accompanied by other subtle phenomena. A soft breeze that seems out of place, a faint whisper of a voice, or the sensation that someone is standing just behind you. Though when you turn, the stairwell is empty. The lantern room, the highest point of the lighthouse, is another hot spot for sightings. Visitors recount seeing a pale, shadowy figure standing near the massive Fresnel lens, gazing out toward the bay as if waiting for a ship that will never arrive. Some claim the figure raises a hand or turns her head, a fleeting gesture that vanishes when observed directly. The light of the lantern, once a beacon for sailors navigating treacherous waters, now seems to illuminate Muriel's presence in a way that is both haunting and melancholic. The contrast between the lighthouse's historical function and the ethereal experiences reported there creates a sense that time itself bends within these walls. Many of the most compelling encounters occurred during storms or on foggy evenings, when the wind howls against the windows and the waves crash violently below. The atmosphere seems to awaken the lighthouse, drawing forth the restless energy of its spectral inhabitant. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature, even on relatively mild days, ghostly impressions that cannot be explained by light, shadow, or reflection. Audio recordings occasionally pick up unexplained noises, creaks, footsteps, and low, mournful sighs that echo through the empty lighthouse. Local lore adds further layers to Muriel's story. Some say she was a caretaker's daughter, alone in the lighthouse during the storm. Others suggest she may have been drawn to the sea, entranced by the waves and the distant horizon. Regardless of the details, her disappearance has left a permanent mark on the site. Lighthouse staff and volunteers have occasionally recounted subtle, yet persistent occurrences. Objects slightly displaced, doors opening or closing with no discernible cause, and the eerie sensation of someone watching from the upper levels. Even after decades, the stories persist, weaving the legend of Muriel into the identity of the lighthouse itself. The Yaquina Bay Lighthouse, though modest in size compared to some of Oregon's larger beacons, carries the weight of history and human emotion. Its short operational life belies the profound impact it has had on those who visit, particularly those drawn to the paranormal. Muriel's presence serves as a reminder that lighthouses were more than mere structures. They were lifelines, places of solitude and vigilance, where human hope and fear intersected against the relentless power of the ocean. The echoes of her spirit seem to embody the tension between safety and danger, the known and the unknown. Visitors often report that spending time in the lighthouse is an immersive experience. Walking the spiral stairs, peering through the lantern room windows, and listening to the wind whip through the structure evokes a connection to the past that is palpable. The story of Muriel, whether interpreted as a ghostly legend or a manifestation of collective memory, becomes inseparable from the physical space. The lighthouse itself, with its weathered walls and persistent light, seems to serve as both a guardian and a stage for the lingering presence. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to the Yaquina Bay Lighthouse for decades, documenting unusual sounds, sudden temperature drops, and fleeting visual phenomena. While skeptics attribute these experiences to environmental conditions, old architecture, or imagination, The consistency and emotional intensity of reported encounters give the legend a weight that transcends mere superstition. The combination of history, isolation, and the natural power of the coastal environment creates a setting in which the past feels present, and the living share the space with the unseen. Ultimately, the Aquina Bay Lighthouse stands as a testament to both maritime history and the enduring power of legend. Muriel's presence, whether ghost or memory, lends the site a haunting beauty, reminding visitors that some stories refuse to fade. As one climbs the spiral staircase, gazes from the lantern room, or listens to the creaking floors, the air seems charged with the history of a young woman lost to time and storm. Her footsteps echo, her figure drifts, and the lighthouse continues to stand, a beacon not only for sailors navigating the bay, but also for those drawn to the mysteries that linger in the shadows of history. The White Eagle Saloon in Portland, Oregon, stands as a relic of a more chaotic and dangerous era. By day, it functioned as a bar and social gathering place. By night, it operated as a brothel, catering to the city's most unruly and desperate clientele. Stories of fistfights, robberies, and clandestine deals became part of the establishment's lore, and over the decades, the building absorbed the energy of its often violent and emotionally charged past. Today, it remains a hub of fascination, not only for history enthusiasts, but also for those drawn to its supernatural reputation. Visitors and staff alike have long reported unusual occurrences that cannot be easily explained. One of the most commonly cited phenomena is the movement of objects without any apparent cause. Glasses, bottles, and barware have been seen sliding across counters, sometimes colliding with others and shattering. Patrons have recounted the unsettling experience of watching a drink appear to tilt or move as if guided by invisible hands. Bartenders, especially those working late nights or alone, often report feeling the air shift suddenly, as though someone has brushed past them, yet the space is empty. The energy in the building seems to retain the memory of past patrons, their anger, sorrow, or revelry manifesting in these small but undeniable movements. Doors throughout the saloon also behave in inexplicable ways. Some doors lock on their own, trapping employees or guests temporarily, only to swing open minutes later with no explanation. Others are heard creaking or slamming when no one is near, particularly those upstairs that were once used for private encounters or as living quarters for workers. The upper floors are especially active, with reports of unexplained footsteps pacing the hallways. Soft murmurs, and, in some instances, the faint sound of singing. Visitors have claimed to hear a woman's voice, clear yet distant, leaving only the lingering echo of the song. Sightings of apparitions add another layer to the White Eagle's haunted reputation. Some guests report seeing shadowy figures moving along the bar, vanishing when approached. Others describe more distinct visions: a woman in period attire, standing by the staircase, watching silently before dissolving into the shadows, or a man in a tattered coat lingering near the back room where many illicit deals took place. These sightings often come with a palpable shift in temperature. Cold spots form suddenly, even on warm nights, and the air feels charged, heavy with unseen presence. The combination of visual and sensory experiences convinces many that the building holds more than just history. It holds lingering spirits bound by unresolved emotion. The saloon's reputation is bolstered by stories passed down from those who have worked or visited the site. Longtime bartenders tell tales of conversations interrupted by whispering voices, glasses rattling in midair, and chairs that appear to move slightly between patrons' visits. Some report feeling a hand lightly touch their shoulder, or sense someone standing close behind them while pouring a drink, only to turn and find no one present. Even during large gatherings, the atmosphere can shift unexpectedly, with guests sensing a presence watching from a corner or along the staircase, creating a tension that is difficult to explain. Historical events provide context for the White Eagle's restless energy. The saloon's walls have witnessed bar fights escalating into serious injury, gambling disputes turning violent, and the personal tragedies of patrons who found solace or despair within its doors. Many who frequented the saloon lived difficult, often short lives, and the building seems to have retained fragments of their stories. Employees and visitors often speak of the feeling that the saloon remembers, that the walls themselves carry echoes of past confrontations, whispered secrets, and fleeting joys. The energy in the building is described as almost tactile, pressing lightly against those who linger too long in certain rooms. Paranormal enthusiasts have long been drawn to the White Eagle Saloon, seeking to document evidence of its spectral inhabitants. Audio recordings sometimes capture indistinct whispers, footsteps, or the low hum of singing where no one is present. Cameras occasionally reveal fleeting shadows near the bar or along the upper floors, while skeptics attribute much of this activity to imagination. The sheer consistency of reports across decades gives the White Eagle a reputation that transcends mere anecdote. Even those visiting purely for its history often sense the saloon's lingering presence, walking through the wooden floors, with the old bar polished but still echoing the weight of past years. Visitors can feel a connection to the building's violent and tumultuous past. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates an immersive experience, blending history with the unexplained in a way that is both haunting and compelling. Ultimately, the White Eagle Saloon is more than a historical bar or brothel. It is a space where past and present coexist, where the energy of those who lived, loved, fought, and suffered within its walls continues to echo. The clatter of glasses, the soft singing, the footsteps on empty floors, all serve as reminders that history is not always silent, and that some presences refuse to leave. The White Eagle Saloon remains a living testament to the people and stories of Portland's past. Its ghosts forever lingering in the corners, watching, singing, and moving among the echoes of a bygone era. Fort Stevens, located on the northern Oregon coast near Hammond, is a sprawling military installation with a history stretching back to the mid-19th century, originally constructed to defend the mouth of the Columbia River. The fort played a critical role in coastal defense through multiple conflicts, including the Civil War and both World Wars. While its military significance is well documented, the site has also become known for something far less tangible: the persistent presence of spirits and unexplained phenomena that seem to linger long after the guns fell silent. Visitors exploring Fort Stevens often report a palpable sense of energy, particularly after dark. Beyond the famed Battery Russell, the fort's expansive grounds appear to be imbued with a spectral life of their own. Patrols of glowing orbs have been seen drifting silently across the parade grounds, moving in ways that defy natural explanation. These lights often appear without warning, sometimes hovering just above the grass, other times darting quickly along pathways before vanishing entirely. Witnesses describe the orbs as faint, luminous spheres, varying in size, and occasionally leaving a lingering warmth in the air where they had been. Many believe these phenomena are tied to the spirits of soldiers who once walked the grounds, continuing their patrols even in death. The barracks at Fort Stevens provide another hotspot for paranormal activity. The old wooden buildings creak and groan in ways that can be explained by age. But visitors often experience sensations that seem to go beyond simple structural quirks. A persistent smell of gunpowder, thick and acrid, lingers in rooms long after they should have dissipated. Doors slam with force despite the absence of wind, and cold spots form suddenly, sending chills through anyone nearby. Many who have stayed in the barracks report a sensation of being watched, as if unseen eyes are tracking their movements. This feeling intensifies when moving through hallways or entering rooms known historically to have housed officers and enlisted men. One of the most compelling forms of evidence collected at Fort Stevens comes from EVP, or electronic voice phenomena, recordings. Investigators frequently capture faint, disembodied voices echoing across empty rooms. Some recordings include soldiers calling out commands or roll calls, their voices tinged with urgency and echoing as if carried from another era. These audio phenomena are particularly chilling when layered with the ambient creaks and groans of the aging structures, creating the impression that the fort is alive with the remnants of its past. Some claim to have captured the sound of boots marching in formation on the floorboards above, though no one is present, adding further weight to the idea that the soldiers' spirits remain tethered to the place they once defended. Beyond the barracks, the parade grounds themselves seem to hold a unique energy. Night visitors frequently report seeing figures in uniform, often indistinct and shadowy, moving in patterns reminiscent of drills or patrols. These figures vanish when approached, but their presence is unmistakable to those who witness them. The combination of visual apparitions, glowing orbs, and inexplicable sounds creates a layered experience that many describe as both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. Even during daylight, the fort carries a certain solemnity, a weight of history that seems to bend perception, though the intensity of paranormal activity reportedly peaks in the quiet of night. Fort Stevens' long history of conflict and human presence likely contributes to its haunted reputation. Soldiers lived, trained, and sometimes died on these grounds, leaving behind intense emotional imprints. During wartime, the fort would have been filled with tension, fear, and anticipation, emotions that, some paranormal theories suggest, paranormal tours and nighttime explorations are popular, with participants hoping to witness the orbs, hear the voices, or feel the sudden cold that has become synonymous with Fort Stevens. Hikers and history enthusiasts alike report the same chilling occurrences, doors opening or closing on their own, faint whispers along deserted hallways, and a subtle but persistent feeling that the fort itself is aware of their presence. Photographs taken during these excursions often reveal inexplicable anomalies, small glowing spots, shadowy figures in doorways, or mist-like shapes drifting across rooms. While skeptics attribute much of this to natural environmental factors or photographic quirks, the sheer consistency of reports across decades fuels the fort's reputation as one of Oregon's most haunted military sites. Even the fort's remote coastal location seems to amplify the atmosphere of unease. The wind off the Pacific can howl through the old structures, carrying the echoes of waves crashing against the cliffs. Yet many paranormal accounts differentiate these natural sounds from the eerie, human-like noises that accompany them. Witnesses describe a layering effect, where the environmental sounds mingle with footsteps, whispers, and disembodied voices in a way that feels both real and otherworldly. The combination of natural elements and historical energy makes Fort Stevens a place where the line between the living and the spectral is remarkably thin. Some visitors have had more direct interactions with the spirits said to inhabit the fort. Reports include sudden cold touches on arms or shoulders, the sensation of unseen hands moving objects, and glimpses of shadowy figures peering around corners. Many describe a profound respect for these presences, often feeling that the spirits are bound not by malice but by duty, continuing to patrol and protect the grounds as they once did in life. This sense of purpose and lingering watchfulness distinguishes Fort Stevens from other haunted locations, giving it a unique aura of history and spectral continuity. Ultimately, Fort Stevens stands as both a historical landmark and a locus of paranormal intrigue. Its decaying barracks, parade grounds, and batteries are steeped in the memory of soldiers who lived, trained, and sometimes died defending the Oregon coast. The glowing orbs, slamming doors, cold spots, and captured voices are more than curiosities. They are echoes of a time when this fort was alive with activity, discipline, and human emotion. Visitors who explore the fort often leave with a sense of having stepped not just into a preserved site of military history, but into a living space where the past lingers, watching and waiting. The fort's enduring spectral activity serves as a reminder of the human stories embedded in the walls and grounds, the sacrifices made, and the intense energy left behind, whether witnessed through glowing orbs, captured on recordings, or felt as a sudden chill. The presence of those who once lived and served at Fort Stevens remains undeniable, making it a hauntingly compelling destination for history enthusiasts and paranormal seekers alike. Multnomah Falls, one of Oregon's most iconic natural landmarks, draws thousands of visitors each year with its breathtaking 620-foot cascade plunging down the cliffs of the Columbia River Gorge. Its beauty is undeniable. Moss-covered rocks, misty spray, and the verdant forest surrounding it create a scene of serene majesty. Yet beyond the natural splendor, the falls are steeped in legend, carrying a story that has echoed through generations. The tale of a heartbroken Native American woman whose sorrow was so profound that it transformed her into a lingering spirit atop the cliffs. According to local lore, the woman belonged to the Monoma tribe. She fell deeply in love with a man from another tribe, but their love was forbidden, and their union was never allowed. Consumed by grief and longing, she climbed to the top of the falls, standing at the very brink where the water plunges into the pool below. Overcome with despair, she leaped into the cascading waters, her life ending in the violent embrace of the waterfall. Her tragic death became immortalized in the oral histories of the local people, a story of love, loss, and the enduring power of emotion tied to the natural world. Visitors to Monoma Falls occasionally report experiences that suggest the legend is more than mere myth. On quiet mornings, when the forest is still and the roar of the water dominates the senses, some swear they can hear a faint, sorrowful cry blending with the rushing cascade. The sound is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet distinct enough to send a shiver down the spine. Hikers ascending the trail to the Benson Bridge or climbing toward the upper falls sometimes report a feeling of being watched, a subtle awareness of a presence at their side or just behind them, vanishing when turned toward. These sensations, coupled with the natural mist that constantly surrounds the cliffs, create an atmosphere in which the line between the living and the spectral seems blurred. The most frequently reported phenomena occurred near the brink of the upper falls. Witnesses describe seeing a pale figure in traditional Native American dress, standing silently at the edge. Some insist they observe her turning to look toward the forest or the rushing water, only to dissolve into mist moments later. The apparition is often described as translucent, almost merging with the spray of the waterfall itself, giving the impression that the spirit has become one with the falls. Those who have encountered her report a heavy sense of sorrow in the air, an emotional weight that lingers long after the figure disappears. The misty environment of Monoma Falls amplifies these experiences. Fog and spray swirl around the cliffs, creating shifting shadows and shapes that can suggest movement or the presence of a figure. Many who have reported sightings describe an unsettling clarity, that the figure they see is distinct, purposeful, and sorrowful, not merely a trick of light and water. The combination of visual phenomena, the mournful sound of the waterfall, and the overwhelming beauty of the gorge seems to enhance the connection between the landscape and the legend, making the experience intensely vivid for those present. Early morning and late evening are particularly active times, according to anecdotal reports. In the dim light, the forest seems to hum with energy, and the sound of the waterfall becomes more pronounced, masking subtle noises that could otherwise be perceived as environmental. Visitors recount hearing the soft rustling of robes or the faint patter of footsteps along the cliff edges, sounds that disappear when investigated. Some hikers report sudden chills, a sensation of the air thickening, or an inexplicable heaviness in their chest, often coinciding with sightings of the pale figure or the sound of crying. These sensations contribute to the sense that the falls themselves are alive with memory and emotion, holding on to the tragedy that occurred centuries ago. Monoma Falls has also drawn the attention of paranormal investigators. Shadows or indistinct shapes appear in photographs, often near the upper falls or along the cliffside trail. Audio recordings have occasionally picked up soft moaning or whispering carried on the wind, subtle enough that the words are indistinguishable but unmistakable in their human quality. While skeptics attribute much of this to environmental factors, lighting, or imagination, the sheer number and consistency of reports over decades give the legend a haunting resonance. The emotional core of the legend, heartbreak and forbidden love, appears to resonate through the environment itself. Visitors frequently describe feeling a sense of melancholy that is almost tangible, a deep empathy for the young woman whose story has endured for generations. Even without seeing the apparition, hikers may pause near the falls, feeling the weight of loss and longing in the air. The legend, passed down by the Multnomah people and embraced by local storytellers, seems to have imprinted itself on the gorge, creating a space where history, nature, and the supernatural converge. Photographs and paintings of Multnomah Falls occasionally capture fleeting phenomena as well. Some images show faint wisps or shapes along the upper cliffs, often dismissed as mist or lighting effects, but interpreted by believers as the lingering presence of the heartbroken woman. Park rangers and regular visitors alike sometimes acknowledge a heightened awareness or unease near the top of the falls, as if the landscape itself is charged with emotion. These experiences reinforce the idea that some places, particularly those tied to powerful human emotion, retain echoes of the past that extend beyond memory into the realm of the perceptible. Ultimately, Multnomah Falls is a location where natural beauty and human tragedy intertwine. The pale figure in traditional dress, the faint cries blending with the roar of the waterfall, the subtle chills and whispers experienced by visitors, all contribute to an atmosphere that is both mesmerizing and haunting. The legend of the heartbroken Native American woman adds a layer of emotional depth to the site, transforming it from a scenic destination into a place of reflection on love, loss, and the enduring presence of the past. For those who visit quietly, watching the mist curl around the cliffs and listening to the roar of the water, the falls offer more than aesthetic pleasure. They provide a connection to a story that has persisted across generations, a reminder that human emotion leaves traces that may never fully fade. Multnomah Falls, in its cascading grandeur and hidden mysteries, stands as a testament to the power of love and loss, and to the enduring belief that some spirits remain tied to the places where their stories began, wandering among the mist and water for eternity. Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery, nestled quietly in the rolling hills of Lafayette, Oregon, is a place where history and legend intertwine, giving rise to stories that have persisted for generations. Established in the 1800s, it serves as the final resting place for many early settlers, pioneers, and families who shaped the region. But beyond the rows of weathered headstones and overgrown grass lies a darker reputation, one steeped in local folklore, whispers of curses, and paranormal activity that has left many visitors unnerved. The most enduring legend surrounding Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery involves a woman accused of witchcraft in the 19th century. Historical accounts vary, but local lore suggests that she was a healer or spiritual practitioner who fell afoul of fearful neighbors. Branded a witch, she was executed. Her final words reportedly, "A curse upon the land and all who would disturb it." Some say her spirit never left, bound by injustice and anger to the cemetery where she met her fate. Over time, stories of strange occurrences began to circulate, forming a chilling narrative that has kept people both wary and intrigued. Visitors to the cemetery often recount hearing footsteps crunching along the grassy pathways, especially at night or during quiet moments when the wind carries the rustle of leaves. The footsteps seem deliberate, pacing along the rows of gravestones or following unseen paths through the cemetery. Those who pause and listen report a disconcerting awareness of being watched, a prickling sensation on the back of the neck that intensifies as they venture deeper into the grounds. Many claim that even when alone, they hear faint whispers calling their names, spoken in tones that are neither malevolent nor friendly, but undeniably present. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the appearance of glowing lights weaving between gravestones. These lights, small and ethereal, move in erratic patterns, sometimes darting swiftly from one marker to another, or hovering over a particular grave for several moments before fading. Some witnesses interpret these lights as the restless spirits of the woman or other souls tied to the cemetery, their presence manifesting as a luminous energy. Others suggest that the lights mark places of historical significance or unresolved events, tracing paths invisible to the naked eye during the day. Whatever the explanation, The lights contribute to the cemetery's reputation as a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blur. Local residents often caution visitors against disturbing the grounds. Many believe that the curse of the executed woman remains active, capable of bringing misfortune to those who disrespect the cemetery. Anecdotes of strange accidents, sudden illnesses, and unexplained bad luck are frequently attributed to visitors who fail to tread lightly or who venture into the cemetery after dark. These warnings have become part of the lore, reinforcing a sense of respect and fear that surrounds the site. Some families even pass down stories of ancestors who experienced misfortune after ignoring the cemetery's boundaries, perpetuating the idea that the curse is very real and enduring. The atmosphere of Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery contributes to its eerie reputation. Overgrown grass and twisted trees create shadowed corridors, while moss-covered stones bear inscriptions that have faded over the centuries. In the fading light of evening, gravestones cast long, shifting shadows that seem almost alive. The gentle rustle of wind through the branches can sound like whispered words, and the subtle movement of leaves can mimic figures passing among the stones. Even during daylight hours, the cemetery holds an unsettling quiet, as if the land itself remembers the tragedies and injustices of the past. Paranormal enthusiasts and investigators have long been drawn to Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery, using audio recorders, EMF detectors, and cameras. They attempt to document the phenomena reported by generations of locals and visitors. Many have captured unexplained anomalies, faint voices or whispers on playback, small orbs of light caught on camera, and sudden temperature drops that occur without environmental explanation. Some investigators claim to have seen shadowy figures standing near graves or moving between headstones, their forms indistinct but undeniably human in shape. While skeptics attribute some of these experiences to imagination, natural conditions, or optical illusions, the consistency of reports over decades lends the cemetery an enduring mystique. Those who spend time in the cemetery often describe a feeling of temporal distortion. Minutes can seem to stretch into hours, and the sense of quietude is punctuated by inexplicable noises and movements. Visitors frequently speak of an emotional heaviness, a deep sorrow that is difficult to articulate, as if the collective grief and anger of past residents have seeped into the very soil. This weight is often accompanied by a strange empathy, a haunting connection to the lives and deaths of those buried there. Some believe that the woman executed for witchcraft, in particular, imprints her anguish upon anyone who lingers too long in her presence, a reminder of injustice and unresolved history. The combination of visual, auditory, and sensory phenomena makes Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery a compelling sight for those drawn to the paranormal. The glowing lights, whispering voices, footsteps on empty paths, and sudden temperature shifts create a tangible sense of the supernatural. Even without seeing apparitions, visitors frequently sense that the land itself is aware, watching, and guarding the memory of the past. Each gravestone, weathered and leaning with age, serves as a marker not only of mortality, but also of stories left unfinished, lives intertwined with legend, and the enduring presence of those who may never have truly departed. Ultimately, Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery is more than a resting place for the deceased. It is a repository of memory, emotion, and legend. The tales of the woman accused of witchcraft, the glowing lights that dance between the gravestones, the whispers of unseen voices, and the footsteps that seem to follow visitors all contribute to an atmosphere that is both haunting and mesmerizing. For those who walk its pathways, the cemetery offers a glimpse into the intersection of history and the supernatural, a reminder that some places, touched by tragedy and injustice, retain the echoes of the past for those brave enough to notice. The cemetery stands as a testament to the enduring power of legend, memory, and emotion, preserving the stories of those who lived, suffered, and died there. Every visit carries the potential to witness the unexplained, feel the weight of the past, and encounter the lingering presence of the woman whose story refuses to fade. A haunting that continues to define Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery across the generations. The Bybee House, located in the historic town of Jacksonville, Oregon, stands as a testament to the passage of time. Its weathered walls and elegant architecture echoing a history filled with both triumph and tragedy. Built in the 1850s, the house has been a home, a place of celebration, and a site of sorrow, carrying with it stories that reach far beyond its period furnishings and polished wood floors. Over the decades, residents and visitors alike have reported a variety of unexplained phenomena, creating a reputation for the Bybee House as one of the most haunted historic homes in the region. Those who step inside the Bybee House often describe a sense of being immediately aware of the past. The air feels thick, heavy with the weight of memories long past yet somehow still present. One of the most commonly reported experiences is the strong, pervasive scent of roses, said to be associated with the house's original owners, or perhaps a long-departed resident who cherished the flower. Visitors describe walking through empty hallways and suddenly noticing the fragrance, sweet and vivid, even though no floral arrangements exist in the room. The scent seems to ebb and flow, sometimes overpowering and other times barely detectable, leaving an indelible impression on anyone present. In addition to the olfactory phenomena, doors throughout the Bybee House appear to have a life of their own. Guests have reported doors unlocking or opening without cause, particularly near the staircases and in the upper floors. Sometimes the movement is subtle, a soft click as a latch releases. Other times, the doors swing wide open with a startling force. Many visitors describe a sensation of being watched during these occurrences, a feeling amplified by the house's creaking floorboards and the faint whispers that seem to drift through the air. Paranormal investigators have documented these moments extensively, noting patterns that suggest an intelligence behind the movement rather than mere structural quirks of an old home. The most striking and frequently reported apparition in the Bybee House is that of a woman standing at the top of the main staircase. Witnesses often describe her as dressed in period clothing, with features partially obscured by shadow or distance. She is typically still, her presence silent but commanding, as if observing the comings and goings of anyone who dares enter the house. Some visitors have approached her, only to find that she vanishes without a trace, leaving behind the lingering scent of roses as the only confirmation that she was ever there. This figure has been seen by multiple people simultaneously, suggesting a tangible presence rather than a trick of the imagination. Paranormal investigators have conducted numerous sessions within the Bybee House, capturing evidence that supports the claims of guests. Cold spots are frequently recorded, often in locations associated with the woman's apparition or near the old staircases. Temperature readings can drop several degrees in seconds, leaving investigators shivering in otherwise warm rooms. EVP, or electronic voice phenomena. Sessions have captured faint whispers, phrases that are difficult to discern but unmistakably human in origin. Some recordings contain what sounds like a soft sigh or a whisper of warning, reinforcing the sense that the house retains a consciousness aware of the living who wander within it. Photographic evidence adds another layer to the house's mystique. Investigators and guests have captured images showing faint, misty forms in areas known for activity. Sometimes these appear as indistinct clouds, but other times they resemble human shapes with blurred features. In several photographs, the figure of the woman is visible near the staircase or in hallways, often surrounded by an unnatural glow that seems inconsistent with the lighting of the room. While skeptics argue these could be caused by long exposures, reflections, or dust particles, the consistency of appearances in the same locations over decades suggests something more. The history of the Bybee House itself may help explain the strong emotional imprint felt by visitors. The home has witnessed generations of families, celebrations, and losses. Some accounts hint at personal tragedies, untimely deaths, heartbreaks, and lingering regrets that may have imprinted upon the property. The woman seen at the staircase may be tied to one of these events, her presence lingering as a silent witness to both joy and sorrow that has passed through the house. This connection between past events and present experiences contributes to the house's reputation as a location where history and the supernatural intersect. Visitors to the Bybee House often leave with a mixture of awe and unease. Even those who approach the home with skepticism report feeling a palpable energy in the air, a tension that seems to tighten in the moments before a door clicks open on its own or a chill runs down the spine. The combination of visual apparitions, cold spots, shifting fragrances, and unexplained sounds creates a multi-sensory experience that is difficult to ignore, leaving a lasting impression long after leaving the property. The house continues to attract paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and curious visitors who hope to glimpse the mysterious phenomena for themselves. Night tours and investigative sessions are particularly popular, as the activities often intensify after dark. Many report that the house feels alive at night, the creaks and groans of the wooden floors echoing like whispers of the past. Even in silence, there is a sense of being observed, a subtle presence that seems to follow visitors through hallways and rooms. Ultimately, the Bybee House serves as a bridge between eras, a living monument to the lives, joys, and sorrows of its past residents. The ghostly woman on the staircase, the haunting scent of roses, the doors that move without cause, and the misty forms captured in photographs all contribute to a layered history that transcends the material. For those who experience it firsthand, the Bybee House is more than just a historic home. It is a place where the past is never truly gone, where spirits linger in the corners of rooms, and where the echoes of lives long ended continue to quietly inhabit the spaces they once loved. The Bybee House remains a testament to the enduring connection between memory, emotion, and place, offering a haunting yet compelling experience to anyone who steps inside, and reminding all who enter that some presences refuse to fade, lingering in the hallways and staircases, quietly watching and waiting. Oregon's haunted places aren't just echoes of the past, they're living, breathing reminders that history never really lets go. In every creaking floorboard, every shadow that moves just a second too late, every gust of wind that carries a whisper, there's a story waiting to be told. We've walked through tunnels where the lost still cry out, climbed lighthouses where spirits keep watch, and stood in forests where the trees themselves seem to remember. And maybe, just maybe, they remember us, too. So, as you turn off the lights tonight, remember the faces you've glimpsed in these stories, because they may be closer than you think. Until next time, keep your courage close, your heart steady, and your eyes wide open. Because in Oregon, the past is never truly past.